This episode is brought to you by Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/SBO. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, Atlanta. Say hello to Small Business Help from Apple. That's right. We're here to make starting and running your business simpler. From helping you choose the right devices to setting them up hassle-free, we can help you build your business in no time. Speak to a business expert and get the help you need at no cost whatsoever. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/smallbusiness or visit an Apple store to learn more.
Even if you've never seen a Studio Ghibli movie or a Hayao Miyazaki movie or any anime, I feel like there's a lot that this movie can offer.
Absolutely just love this film. This was only my second watch of it, but beautiful film, wonderful choice.
I can't say enough good things about this movie. I've seen it so many times and I love it more and more every single time I see it. How amazing does Studio Ghibli food look on screen? Like those eggs and bacon. It's just
thick bacon there, isn't it? That's going to be like
delicious.
Top tier bacon.
and I'm vegetarian and I'm like, I really want that bacon.
Hello everybody, joining Flixwatcher today we've got Em.
Hi.
Claire.
Hello.
And as always, Kobe.
Yo.
And we're here to review Howls Moving Castle. Thank you as always to the mighty people for the mighty tunes, and thanks to Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills.
Please do remember to write a review and rate us on Apple Podcasts and anywhere you can do where you listen to the podcast, because it really does help us.
And you can join in the conversation with us on Twitter
at FlixWatcherPod and on Instagram
at FlixWatcher. Hello film fans, welcome to Flixwatcher Podcast. Joining us remotely today, we have Em and Claire. If you could please say hello to our listeners and tell them a little bit more about who you are and what you do, please.
Hi, I'm Claire. I'm a co-host and co-creator of W Rated Podcast. It's a podcast where we are watching the worst rated movies as voted for on the IMDb Bottom 100 list, where we look to see, can these films really be that bad? And do they even deserve? Some of them don't deserve to be there, so we try and redeem a film each episode.
Do you do you have a favourite one, quote unquote, that you've redeemed that's just had so much scorn poured upon it?
Yes, my favourite episode is still one of our first ones we did, which is on the Lindsay Lohan classic I Know Who Killed Me, which was a film I was a fan of before the list. I already owned it on DVD. It was just the most fun we had talking about that film. We recorded for 5 hours and ended up having to split it into a double episode. But that's still my favourite. And one that I'm really looking forward to doing is Britney Spears' Crossroads, because I think that's going to be really interesting to analyse how did it end up voted the 50 worst film of the year. Of the world, because I think that's unfair. We can say it might not be Oscar worthy, but is it really the 50th worst film ever made?
Well, I mean, talking of awards, it's as we record today, the Razzies have been announced, which you are familiar with.
Yes, so we will be attempting to watch all of the Razzie nominees. We've got a month before the awards, so we're going to try and watch all 25 of them. I think last year we managed to watch 18 of the 25, and we did a alcohol-fueled episode where we just went through each of them and said what we thought of it, if we agreed with the nomination, and it was a bit chaotic. So let's see what happens this year.
I mean, it does sound, it's a fun podcast, but also you do think you are making yourself watch bad films as well. Sometimes I just think, is there enough time in the day or the year?
The thought of having to now spend the next month watching 7 carbon copy Bruce Willis action films is not one that's sitting comfortably with me right now. So let's see how I feel by the end.
Who are you?
Hello. My name's Em, and I host Verbal Diorama. I am the solo host of that podcast. So it's basically all my fault It exists.
At least you've got no scheduling problems ever.
Well, no, that's the thing. I asked my cat, what are we doing? And she says, meow, meow, meow. And I go, oh, okay, not very much then. Let's do something. So my podcast...
Your cat sounds like Gigi from
she does occasionally make an appearance. She doesn't actually sound like that at all. So yeah, my podcast is basically all about the history and legacy of movies you know and movies you don't. And I take a movie every episode and I basically tell you all about how it was made, and production stories and casting choices and trivia and all of that. So yeah, it's very, very research heavy. I do put quite a lot of work into it, and yeah, I'm really super proud of it.
Yeah, you crossed the 100 episode mark a couple of months ago, didn't you?
Yeah, so at the moment I'm at 139.
Oh, okay.
And I'm actually, as of recording, next week is the podcast's 3rd birthday. So I've been doing it for 3 years. And yeah, I also write stuff for film stories as well. I've been doing that for 2.5 years-ish. And yeah, I have a column in their magazine and I write for the website as well, which is always good fun because I feature podcasts. I get to talk about other podcasts and I get to know other podcasts. And that's obviously how I got to know Flixwatcher. Was through that experience. And that's how I'm going to be getting to know Clare a bit more because her podcast is going to be featured very soon. Yay! So yeah, it's I can't complain about anything that I do because it's all good fun. It's just really, really super hard work.
Well, we're talking about your film choice today, Em.
Yes.
This is Howls Moving Castle. Can you tell us why you chose it, first of all, and then give us the synopsis in 60 seconds or less? And there will be a timer to work towards.
Okay, so I picked this movie first of all because I'm a huge Studio Ghibli fan. It's probably the studio that I've talked about the most on Verbal Diorama. Hayao Miyazaki is the director that I've talked about the most on Verbal Diorama. I am just so in awe of the studio and what they do. This is my favourite Miyazaki movie. Which surprises a lot of people, especially when this is the studio that did Princess Mononoke and Spirited Away and Laputa Castle in the Sky and all of these incredible movies. And this is my favourite one. And I think it's because it's never been as critically acclaimed as his other work. And so it feels a little bit like the underdog. And I like that. I like that it's the underdog. It has a beautiful score by Joe Hisaishi. I'm actually going to be going to see him in concert this year. Wow. It's been postponed twice.
Where is he playing?
So excited. He's playing at Wembley.
Oh, wow.
It's the first time he's ever been to the UK.
What's the format?
So I think...
So here's me on Ticketmaster right now to get...
Get tickets. I think you can still get tickets. So it's at the SSE Arena at Wembley. Mm-hmm. And as far as I understand it, he's going to be playing, so he's going to have a full orchestra there playing the scores, and then they're going to have clips of the movies. Because obviously Joe Hisaishi has done a lot of the Studio Ghibli scores.
I mean, that's exactly what I wanted from your... That's exactly what you wanted to say. He's doing exactly what you want him to do. Yeah. That's amazing.
I think I'm booking a flight back to England.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. But the reason why I love Joe Hisaishi so much is because of this movie, because of the score of this movie. It's so beautiful. It makes me cry, which is ridiculous, really. But I just think it's so beautiful. And also, I feel I can relate to Sophie, the character of Sophie. She feels inadequate. She's got a bit of a complex, and I like her. I like Howl. And it's just, at the end of the day, it's just a really beautifully told fairy tale, all about found family and what's not to like about that.
Okay. Well, you've kind of given the synopsis there.
Sorry. I've got another synopsis.
You go.
Okay. Sophie has an uneventful life at her late father's hat shop and laments not being as beautiful as the other girls in her town. When she's accosted by some creepy men, she's rescued by the infamous wizard Howl, who supposedly eats the hearts of pretty girls. However, he treats her kindly and magically takes her to where she needs to be when they are chased by the Witch of the Waste scoons. Knowing where Sophie is, the jealous witch pays her a visit and curses her with looking like an old woman and that she cannot tell anyone about her curse. Forced to the waste, she finds Howls Castle, befriends the occupants, a fire demon called Calcifer, and a young boy called Markl and Howl himself before starting to work as their cleaning lady, all while attempting to remove her curse, the curse upon Howl, and stop a war that's ravaging their home and turning witches and wizards into demons.
Very good.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I'm going to go to you, Claire, first. What are your Ghibli thoughts?
So I've seen, I think, 5 Ghibli films now, and I watched 3 of them in the space of 1 week, which were Spirited Away, Howls Moving Castle, and My Neighbor Totoro. And Howls Moving Castle just blew me away. I liked the other 2. The other 2 are brilliant, but same as Howls Moving Castle, without a shadow of a doubt, top one for me.
When you said people like her, why is that your favourite? I can obviously it's very much personal choice, but I can see why it's your favourite. I mean, it's not a surprise. But anyway, sorry, carry on, Claire.
No, but I always get, oh no, Spirited Away is better. And I'm like, no, I've seen Spirited Away too. Spirited Away, can't fault it, but give me Calcifer any day of the week. I love that little buddy. I was posting last night, I found someone who makes custom plushes of him. And I was like, can I buy that for myself, maybe?
Can you send me the link?
I will. But yeah, absolutely just love this film. This was only my second watch of it, but beautiful film, wonderful choice.
Helen?
So I think I saw this at the cinema. I'm 99.9% convinced that I did see this at the cinema, but I haven't seen it since. So I was really looking forward to revisiting it. I'm definitely into double figures. Since they've come onto Netflix, I'm kind of like working my way through them. So I've seen quite a few now. There's a lot going on in this one. Like some of them are quite simple in their stories, but this one, I think I'd not quite taken in quite how mad it is. So you've got Howl, who's this kind of almost like David Bowie / Goblin King kind of character with his silver hair and his open shirt and his necklace. And then you've got...
And the earring.
You've got like, there's a small child on board with the ship and the talking fire pit. So they're like kind of like the normal things. And then the kind of like the opening scene is just so incredible with the detail of the animation. And then it's very much like this anti-war film as well, which apparently he made as kind of like a bit of a protest. And then also really unusual is that one of the main characters is this old female character, and it's just kind of like so interesting to see a film generally, let alone an animation where you're kind of like one of your main characters, and then obviously the Witch of the Waste as well, are kind of like old female characters. So there's just like there's a lot going on, and it's all kind of like a little bit mad as well, but also really, really beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time watching it, and when I saw the castle moving and the animations, I was kind of dumbstruck. I was like, "What? How are they doing? It just looks amazing." And that's the GIF we have on the Twitter for this. Cause I just had to have a GIF of the castle moving. It's I can totally see why it's your favorite one. I'm not sure if it's my favorite, but I think it looks great, and the setup is amazing. How the Howl flits in between the different kind of realms, how that all kind of works. Calcifer is great, and I watched it. I flicked between the English and the Japanese dub just on a whim. Sometimes I just switch between them. I think I prefer Calcifer in the English dub.
Oh really?
Billy Crystal.
Is it Billy Crystal? That's probably.
I've only ever watched it in the original, but I have heard this one particularly does have a brilliant dub cast.
Yeah, it is one of the better dubs. I mean, this is obviously when Disney did the dubs for a lot of the Studio Ghibli stuff, and there's some big names in this cast. There's Christian Bale, obviously Billy Crystal, Gene Simmons, Lauren Bacall.
Gene Simmons?
Yeah.
As in from Kiss?
Oh, have I got her name wrong?
Who am I thinking of?
I thought Gene Simmons was from Kiss.
Yeah, I think it's Gene with a J, not Gene with a G-E-N-E.
Oh, so from Mayor of Easttown and Hacks.
Yeah, Gene Simmons. Yeah, not the singer from Kiss. The actress Gene Simmons. I think she's passed away since. But yeah, she was. I think she started working in Hollywood in like the 50s.
Okay.
So she plays older Sophie, and then Emily Mortimer as young Sophie. And Blythe Danner's in there as well, Jenna Malone. So it's a pretty stacked cast. And one of the things that I always talk about on Verbal Diorama, especially when I cover quite a lot of anime, because I have covered quite a lot of anime in the past because I love it. But I've always been very much I don't care about subs v dubs. I know a lot of people are quite purist and they prefer to watch it in the way they prefer to watch it. But I kind of feel like if you've got good dubbing, that's going to open the movie up to people who don't like subtitles, because there are people out there who don't want subtitles. So I'm kind of like subs v dubs, however you want to watch it, as long as you watch movies like this. And the rest of the Ghibli output and basically any foreign movie ever, but especially stuff like this, because I don't think it really matters when it comes to animation, whether it is subbed or dubbed.
I mean, there's definitely different schools of thought. I think it matters less with animation with sub versus dub. If I saw anyone watching Parasite with a dub version who could speak, or who could, I would be angry at them. But animation, I'm less so. With this, with all the Ghibli films, I always like to watch the subtitles, have the subtitles on, no matter what language I'm on, because sometimes it's wildly different in English versus the subtitles versus and it's laughable sometimes how different it is. It's insane, but it makes me laugh. It's an added layer to watching it.
I tend to, because I've already seen this in the Japanese, and I also read somewhere that Christian Bale is wild in this.
Is he Howl?
He's Howl. He's
yeah.
fantastic in this.
He's really good.
I love him in this.
So I because I'd seen it before, I treated myself to the American dub on the basis of that it's definitely Christian Bale, and it is a bit wild. And yeah, I also kept the subtitles on as well to see that difference. And sometimes it's like bizarre. It's like, well, why wouldn't you have said that? And then in other cases, it's just like really different. But for this, and like Lauren Bacall, like it's just like she's in this, and it's just like kind of, I know those voices a little bit, so I did enjoy having that. But for first time, I think it's always good to go with how it was originally intended, if you can.
I'm completely in love with both Howl and Calcifer, and I don't know if I could love them if they were voiced by Christian Bale and Billy Crystal. So I'll stick to the Japanese to keep my love pure.
So I mean, like everyone said, well, Helen in particular said the story is a bit wild. I mean, that's all the Studio Ghibli generally. There's a lot of stuff out there. In the first 10 minutes of Spirited Away, it's like, wait, what? But this is from a source. This is from a book by Diane Wynne Jones, which I didn't realise, and it's ostensibly set in Wales.
Yes.
So, take us away. I presume you've done some of the research behind this.
Well, yeah. So the book is set in Wales. The movie, it's kind of, because she's Welsh, and it's kind of set. It's set in a sense of, it's supposed to look like Wales, but the country it's set in is actually Ingery, which is kind of a play on England, I believe. But so basically, you've got all these locations in the book and in the movie where the Ingery itself, so the capital city is Kingsbury. The movie, I will say, I don't think it makes it completely clear sometimes where you are. Especially where you've got, because obviously Howl is kind of this being that a lot of people know who he is. He's kind of infamous in a way, because it's the whole, he only eats the hearts of pretty girls and he takes them away, and they fall in love with him and all of that. So he's kind of got this celebrity status about him, but he also masquerades as wizards in the different towns. So you've got the capital city of Kingsbury, which is where the royal palace is, and that's where Howl is summoned to Madame Suliman. And then you've got the town of Porthaven, which is where the wizard Jenkins lives. And then you've got Sophie's hat shop is in a place called Market Chipping. And the thing is, all of these places sound very English. You can imagine, like, I'm just going to go to Market Chipping on a Saturday afternoon. So it does all sound very English. And then Howls Castle obviously resides in the Waste. But we know that Ingery itself has a king, and we know that they are at war with another kingdom, but we never find out who that other kingdom actually is. But it's supposed to be that a lot of the visuals in this movie, because this is a very visual movie. I often watch this movie and I get quite emotional at how it looks, because it purposely looks, you know, when you've got these beautiful meadows and flowers, and it looks very kind of English countryside. But then a lot of the towns and the buildings look quite European. They look like, you know, you could be in Germany or you could be in France. And that was a very purposeful choice, I think, by the team working at Ghibli to actually make it look quite European, I think. And one of the things that I love about this movie so much is the fact it just looks so beautiful. I'm often at awe with the work of Studio Ghibli and how they do what they do. Because obviously this is all 2D, pretty much all 2D hand-drawn animation. And it's one of the things that I love to talk the most on my podcast about is animation, and especially 2D hand-drawn animation, because so many studios have kind of gone away from that aesthetic now. You know, if you look at likes of Disney and Pixar, and even Ghibli themselves are kind of moving away from that now. And a lot of the stuff is complemented with CG. You know, if you look back at something like Princess Mononoke, that had CG elements with like blood and stuff like that. And the castle itself is obviously enhanced with CG. But you mentioned obviously earlier, Kobe, about the castle. And one of the things I love so much about the castle is it's like a living, breathing character in its own right. Yeah. You feel it every time it moves, and it creaks and the mouth opens. It feels like it's breathing and it's actually there. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about this movie. I've seen it so many times, and I love it more and more every single time I see it.
Has anyone got anything to say about the Witch of the Waste? I thought it's an interesting arc she follows. She's a baddie, then she's someone to be kind of pitied, and then she's a baddie again. It's like in a very kind of disheveled form.
I do like that they redeem her, and that Sophie's generosity and Sophie's heart is so welcoming and open that, you know, this witch cursed her for all intents and purposes. She had to leave her home and her family behind because of this curse, and yet she is so willing to open up her heart, her arms, her home to this woman and look after her and care for her. And I think that's such a lovely message that, you know, it's what you give to other people that you'll get back in return. Yeah, I can agree with that. And also, I like the ambiguity of villains and heroes in this movie, because you could say that the king is a hero in a sense of he's waging this war against this unnamed opponent. But is he actually a hero? You know, is Howl a hero for choosing not to fight, or is he a hero for choosing to fight? And I like the Witch of the Waste because she could very easily just be seen as like Claire said, as a typical kind of villain, and then she loses all her power. And I think it would be really easy for a character like Sophie to just kind of cast her aside. But Sophie is so pure of heart that she just instantly takes her in and looks after her. And literally all the Witch of the Waste ever wanted was Howl's heart. And even when, after she loses her power, she is always kind of thinking about, I just want this heart. She just wants to find his heart. And it's actually, I always love the idea that Calcifer, when you first watch the movie, you don't really know who Calcifer is or what Calcifer is. But there are little clues there that there's more to Calcifer than meets the eye. And I just, I like that it lets you make your own mind up about who's bad and who's good. And then at the end, it doesn't actually matter all that much anyway, because it's all about these people finding each other.
Before we head to the scores, any other comments?
I was just going to mention, like, I love the Calcifer thing because at the start of the film, we're introduced to Howl, and it's kind of heavily, I'm not sure if it actually says it, but it's heavily implied that he's heartless and he steals women's hearts and he has no heart. And it's meant to be because he's so brave and evil and all of these things. And then you learn through the movie that no, he is a big, mushy, over-emotional dramatic basket who took his own heart out because he realised how much easier it is to live without the weight of a heart. And then you've got Calcifer, who is so dramatic and please look after me and take care of me. And once you get to the end and you realise their relationship, it's so lovely. And on that rewatch, I think that those two characters, and you get so much more knowing the link between them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any comments about Mr. Turnip Head?
I was just gonna say, like, it all kind of like ends well, even if Mr. Turnip Head doesn't end up with his true love. The spell is broken, and I was just gonna say that I just really love the scene where Calcifer is eating the eggshells. Yes. Really enjoyed that.
How amazing does Studio Ghibli food look on screen? Like those eggs and bacon. It's just
thick bacon, that, isn't it? That's going to be like
delicious,
top tier bacon.
and I'm vegetarian, and I'm like, I really want that bacon.
I mean, the start of Spirited Away, I'm always hungry. I was like,
yes.
I know it's going to turn me into a pig, but I want that food. Let's head to the scores.
I'm Helen O'Hara, film journalist, author, and host of Women vs. Hollywood, a new podcast from the Stripped Media family. We're exploring the fall and rise of women in Hollywood, from the silent era to the present day and into the future. Each episode, I'm joined by 3 or more special guests to discuss the challenges that women face in the film industry and look at what we can do to change the picture. We've got actors, directors, producers, writers, academics, film experts, you name it, they're all here to explain what's going on in Hollywood. Search for Women vs. Hollywood now, wherever you're listening to this, and come join us.
Your neighborhood just got cooler with Kroger Delivery's refrigerated trucks. Simply order groceries at the same great prices online as in-store, and we'll bring them to you fresh every time. And if that wasn't cool enough, you can now earn 4 times the fuel points after 4 with your digital coupon. Choose a next-day Kroger delivery time slot for 4 p.m. or later on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Must deliver by February 4th. Restrictions apply. See Kroger.com for details.
Welcome to our Flixwatcher scoring system. All of the scores are out of 5, and we will start with you, please, with your recommendability.
The thing is I love this movie so much that I can't not recommend it, purely for the fact that even if you've never seen a Studio Ghibli movie or a Hayao Miyazaki movie or any anime, I feel like there's a lot that this movie can offer anyone who's kind of new to this style of animation. And like I say, subs v dubs, it kind of doesn't matter. So I have to give it a score of 5.
Claire?
A little bit the same. I would definitely give it 5 out of 5. And I think it, from someone who was new to Ghibli when I watched this, I watched, like I say, this, Spirited Away, and My Neighbour Totoro one night each in a row. And I felt like this was the perfect medium for a newbie to the company, because Spirited Away might be technically more beautiful and detailed and complex, but there is so much going on in that story that it's a little bit overwhelming. And Totoro is so lovely and simple, but for an adult it could be a little bit kind of, oh well, that's just a little kid's story, even though it's not. And I felt like this had that perfect balance of the animation is so detailed and the plot is complex, but it is at its heart a fairy tale of a prince and a princess, or, you know, whatever, finding each other's hearts and a bit of magic and a wicked witch. And I just think it's really easily accessible whilst opening your eyes to this entire new world of filmmaking.
Helen?
This is definitely one of the more madder ones. Even with like some of the ones that are obviously not really set in reality, they're kind of like a little bit more simple. I think this one, maybe there's a bit too much madness in it and maybe a little bit too long. That said, I did really enjoy revisiting it. Not quite my favourite, but still, if you've seen a couple, I'm not sure whether I'd recommend this as like an entry-level one, because it might just be a bit too much in one go. So I'm going to give it a 4.5.
I'm going for 4.75. I don't know. I can't remember how rated the other ones, but I think it's definitely up there. To be fair, I haven't watched one that I don't like, but then I haven't watched. I maybe coming up to 10, and every time someone brings a Ghibli on here, I'm excited because a reason to watch it. And I'm always like, I always leave it saying, I need to watch more, and then I don't. So, but yeah, this is great. I just love the animation of the castle, and that pulled me right in from the word go. Repeat viewing score. I think this is going to be quite high. M.
Well, I've seen this movie more than any other Studio Ghibli movie. So on that basis, I feel like I've got to give it a 5, because otherwise I'm kind of going against my own rules there, because I've seen it so many times.
Claire?
I'm going to go 4.75 because this was my second watch of it, and I did notice I was slightly less glued to it on the rewatch, but that's because I knew the story, so I knew what was coming up, and I knew which scenes I wanted to pay attention to that involved Howl.
Helen?
It's a massive gap since I watched it the first time, so I was pretty much enjoying the rewatch. That said, it's one of the longer ones, so I'm probably not going to watch it as that often, so I'm going to give it a 3.
I'm going to go for 3 as well. I think I will watch it. I'm not sure when. I need to watch the rest of them first, and that's the main thing. Small screen score. M. Have you seen this on the big screen?
So I have not seen it on the big screen, so I'm hoping that when I go and see Joe Hisaishi, that'll probably be the first time I'll be seeing scenes from this movie on the big screen. But I do feel like this is a movie that's very suited for more of a big screen experience, because there's a lot going on in some scenes, and it's just such a beautifully animated movie. So I feel like, although it looks good at home, and obviously I've never seen it on the big screen, but I would absolutely love to. So I've given it a 3.
Claire?
I feel like I'm going to skew the score so high I might have to lower it down a bit now.
No, you go for whatever you want.
I've also only ever seen it at home, but I didn't think, having only ever seen it at home, I didn't think it lost anything. I still thought the animation was gorgeous. I felt completely enveloped in the world and invited into the world. So I was going to give it a 4 out of 5, only because I imagine if I now saw it on the big screen, I could never go back to watching it on the small screen. But I haven't done that yet, so it's still quite high for me.
Helen?
I don't really feel the need to see animation on the big screen.
Get out.
I know, I'm sorry. And I've watched quite a lot of
Simpsons.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe The Simpsons has decommissioned my brain into thinking animation's the best on the small screen. I've seen a couple of the other films at the cinema, and then I've seen most of them at home, and I'm quite happy watching them at home. Sorry, so I'm going to give it a 5. I think it works well at home, and I think if you've got kids, then you can introduce them to Studio Ghibli at a really young age, unlike me, who discovered them as an adult person. So, they're on Netflix. Knock yourself out, fill your boots with them.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to watch this in the cinema. I disagree with Helen wholeheartedly. If there's any animation that works well, I'm thinking Kubo and the Two Strings. I'm thinking Spider-Man to the Spider-Verse.
Wonderful.
I would rather watch all animation in the cinema and all live action at home if I had to pick between the two, because I think the depth of animation only improves on a bigger screen.
But having said that, I think it's perfectly accessible on a small screen. I think some bits are a bit crowded on the screen, but I think that would still be the same in the cinema. But I'd like to perhaps get there, watch it more for Joe Hisai's score, which didn't really envelop me whilst I was watching it. So I think that'll be the all-encompassing bit that takes me over the edge for watching it in a bigger screen. Engagement score though.
See, again, I'm so biased towards this movie. I feel like I'm skewing my scores because of my bias. But I gave this a 4.5 because, me personally, if this is one of those movies that doesn't really get shown on TV. You weren't going to put on BBC One and see this movie. But if it was, I would then want to watch it. And obviously, every time I've put this movie on, I appreciate what Helen said. It is a long movie. It's almost 2 hours long, I believe, which is quite lengthy for an animation just generally. But I do feel like once this movie is on, I personally don't want to switch it off, because I am fully engaged, even though I've seen it so many times. I just want to see Sophie, and I want to see Howl, and I want to see Calcifer, and yeah. So 4.5.
Claire?
Yeah, pretty much same score for me for very similar reasons. I'm just copying M through this whole episode. But yeah, I think I could easily lose engagement if they didn't introduce us to Sophie and to Howl as quickly as they do. I think that's a really important thing that they do. You meet them within the first 6 minutes, and so immediately big grin, because I fell for both of those characters. I think they're so well written, and you get to know each of them instantly. So once you're on board with the characters, if you click with them, you're engaged, then you want to stick with them.
Helen?
If you've got the subtitles on, then you need to pay attention because you won't know what's going on. So therefore, if you feel as though you're a bit scatty on the old attention span, then definitely have the subtitles, and then you'll have to look at the screen and you'll have to do the reading. I'll go for a 4.5 as well. I think if you kind of dip out, then you're probably going to be like, oh, what world are they in? When did that happen? You're going to miss things like Calcifer eating his eggshells and things like that, because there's so much detail going on that you really do want to be engaged. So yeah, 4.5.
Sorry, let's go for 4.5 as well. That gives us an overall score of 4.31250. Splendid.
Oh, that's high, that is.
It is high.
As it should be.
I mean, as it should be, but that surprised me quite a lot, actually. I thought that I'd be like singing its praises and everyone would be like, yeah, it's not actually that good, you know. I'm really happy.
Good. Well, you brought it to the table. Right, let's head over to Twitter. And everyone who's listening, if this is the first time listening, do follow us on Twitter. We are at FlixWatcherPod. And the main reason to follow us is because we put out a tweet before we go into the recording, so you can get a bit of a sneak peek into what we're going to do over the next few days. In this case, look out for a tweet like this, saying we're reviewing Howls Moving Castle with Clare, Ellen Hope, and M. Will Dolt from W-Rated and Verbal Diorama. Have you seen it? Tells your thoughts and the score out of 5 stars for on their shout out on Flixwatcher. And we had a couple of responses. M, do you want to take the first one you can see?
Yeah, so we've got David Trumbull at Drumble, who says, my favourite Miyazaki threads together vibrant, seemingly disparate elements and characters into a masterpiece as flawlessly ramshackle as the castle itself. A touching portrait of an unlikely homestead's ability to reverse engineer a family. 5 stars, #story. Which, I mean, that's kind of a perfect summary of the movie, as far as I'm concerned. I think there was one other as well. So we've got Mike at Gundam_Guyver, who said, gorgeous movie, Sophie and Howl are great characters and their relationship is definitely the high point of the film. However, when the story leaves them and deals with war and conflict, it feels a bit muddled and confused. Still a great movie though, but there's no star rating, unfortunately.
There's no star rating. Mike Gulick.
Damn it.
Well, Em and Claire, can you sign off by letting us know where the listeners can find you online, and we'll say goodbye to all the people who are paying attention?
Yes, absolutely. So you can find me at Verbal Diorama on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook.
And you can find me at Clare Ellen Hope, Claire without an I, on Twitter and Instagram, as well as W-Rated Pod over there as well.
Awesome. Well, good luck for your raspberries, golden raspberries.
Pray for me.
Yeah.
You're doing good work.
Yeah. I mean, do you need to, though? Of course you do. Thank you very much, guys. It's been great.
Thanks for coming
Bye.
on.
Thank you.
Bye.
Enjoyed this episode of Flixwatcher podcast? Why not leave us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can also follow us at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter, and we're at FlixWatcher on Instagram. Thanks as always to the mighty people for their mighty tunes, and Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills. If you're looking to get your podcast edited as sweet as this, get in touch with Ben, and that's Rockwood, ROKK Wood Audio. Tell them Flixwatcher sent you.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.